Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where there is a flurry of activity at the Cannes Film Festival, resulting in two major deals that are coming together that we're going to talk about today. However, first, there's even more activity in the Berlanti-verse. Yes, Greg Berlanti actually has his own universe. Unfortunately enough, succeeding where Zack Snyder has failed. Yes, the Snyderverse is in danger of collapsing, but the Berlanti-verse is seemingly having a big boom of expansion, which is weird and should give Zack Snyder hope, considering that there was a time when the Berlanti-verse was doing very poorly. And actually, that was even recently, because he's the guy behind the Green Lantern movie, and then also Warner Brothers' recent horrible flop, Pan. But on television, he's doing an absolutely spectacular job with the DC shows. He is behind Arrow. He is behind Flash. He is behind Legends of Tomorrow. He is behind Supergirl, which lives to fight another day, as was announced yesterday, with it moving to join the rest of the Berlanti shows on the CW. So in some ways, that's still a win for Greg Berlanti, even though the show ended up being taken off of CBS. So he's doing so well that it seems that Warner Brothers still has some faith in him and is allowing him to pursue a Booster Gold movie. He is producing it. He'd like to direct it. Warner Brothers hasn't agreed just yet. But also he's having one of his screenwriters, Zack Stentz, who works on his shows with him, put together a script. And sometimes, here's the thing, when the Berlanti-verse gets it right, it really gets it right. The Flash is beloved by many viewers right now. Supergirl also has a strong fan base, myself included. And so I think that there is some chance, it's not impossible, that Greg Berlanti could make a good Booster Gold movie. Now, who is Booster Gold? Now, it's interesting. Remember the plot in Back to the Future 2, where they bought that sports magazine and Marty wanted to use the information on, the almanac. He wanted to use the information on the winners to make himself rich. And of course, Biff Tannen got his hands on it instead. And we all saw how that turned out. But anyway, Booster Gold gets the same idea with making himself a hero. So he comes from the future and he goes back in time using his information of events to save the day, right? So he starts out kind of not being the greatest guy. But of course, because he is a hero, he eventually learns the error of his ways and becomes a hero. He also has a robot sidekick named Skeets, and certainly a strong cult fan base. He's not a huge character, which is why you haven't really seen him if you're not a hardcore comic book fan. Occasionally, he's one of those characters who will guest like on an animated series, and the internet goes crazy, but a lot of people are like, I don't get it. And as for myself, I'm not a huge Booster Gold fan, but I'm open to becoming one. Now, what I think is interesting about this and why it's probably being pursued by Warner Brothers is that while some people like to say Suicide Squad is supposed to be their Guardians of the Galaxy, I wouldn't agree with that, but I think the Booster Gold totally could be. And if they could get some kind of amazing casting like Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, it could indeed work out very, very well. But we'll see. Greg Berlanti, again, has a horrible track record when it comes to movies with Green Lantern and Pan, and I would just be super nervous. I think hopefully it would be a very inexpensive movie. But we'll see. Now let's move over to, so before we move on to the Cannes deals, I would be interested down below to hear if you're even interested in a Booster Gold movie. Are you familiar with Booster Gold? And do you believe that Greg Berlanti can make a good movie? All right, because I know that even with some of his, DC shows, fans aren't happy. Arrow, everybody's very unhappy these days. Legends of Tomorrow never quite got off the ground, and Supergirl does have its problems, and people are very scared that the Flash might trip. So we'll see. All right, so I said there was a lot of activity at Cannes. So let's talk about these two deals that I think are very exciting. The first, though, is exciting not just creatively, but also business-wise, because Molly's Game, the new Aaron Sorkin film, his directorial debut, looks like it's going to go to STX Entertainment. STX Entertainment? That's right. STX Entertainment is this new distributor who had a huge hit with The Gift. Well, not huge, but it was really a nice introduction for them as a distributor. But they haven't been able to duplicate that success at all, so they're trying very hard to do so. They're also the distributor behind Bad Moms that has a little bit of buzz coming out this summer, so So we'll see. But what's interesting about STX Entertainment is that they have a huge amount of money from China. They're almost pretty much partners with the Chinese production company, which is why whenever you see a STX movie, you will see also, I think it's like the Huang brothers or something, also have their logo beforehand, because they're infused with money from China. And sure enough, this deal that's almost done, I have to make sure I clarify that, because the deal is not complete at the time of filming of this video. But people are reporting it because if it does go through, it will be such a big deal. But it's $9 million for Molly's Game for both U.S. and China distribution rights. So what is Molly's Game? Well, again, it's Aaron Sorkin writing and directing, and this is the true story of a former Olympian who goes to Los Angeles to become a waitress because her Olympic situation, peters out. And she starts a poker game, a very successful underground celebrity poker game. This is the poker game that apparently Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire used to go to all the time. We'll talk about Tobey Maguire actually in the next story. But interestingly enough, and then it's a big deal, very infamous game in Tinseltown, and then she ends up getting arrested. And so Jessica Chastain is set to star as Molly, and then Idris Elba will play her attorney. That's a huge role for Idris Elba to land that. That is along the lines of Denzel Washington, I think it really actually was his big breakout role after, of course, Glory. When he played the lawyer in Philadelphia, that was a big deal for his career, and I would liken that to this for Idris Elba. So Idris Elba, though, by the way, on a side note, it seems like his time is finally upon us with that and the Dark Tower, that Western, that Stephen King Western he's starring in. That's a really big deal as well. So very exciting. And also Aaron Sorkin's such a fabulous writer. I think that Idris Elba will have wonderful material. So good for him. That's very exciting. So that's a great project. That's a really good package, Molly's Game. Jessica Chastain, Idris Elba, Aaron Sorkin. People will be interested in that. Or will they? That's where the question comes in, because STX Entertainment has to launch 2 campaigns for this movie. It has to have a convincing ad campaign, and Jessica Chastain so far has proven to be not beloved at the box office. She is not a draw, so that's very scary, I think. Also, Idris Elba has also not yet proven to be a draw, and I don't know if he can overcome the slight negative that Jessica Chastain might be. And Aaron Sorkin isn't always a huge draw. Look what happened to Steve Jobs, right? And Aaron Sorkin was very worried that Michael Fassbender would torpedo that movie's box office prospects. We still aren't quite sure whose fault that was, that it never quite came together. But also, there's always the problem that, mid-range movies, why would you watch this in the theater, right? Why wouldn't you not rent it? It's really tough. So they're going to have to create a really good ad campaign that makes people feel, I need to see this in the theater. Now, one way you can do that is to say, this is a huge awards contender. Now, that was supposed to be the case with Steve Jobs, but that never really got off the ground as an awards contender either. So that's the other question. Can STX run an awards campaign? I don't know about that. I don't know if STX's ability to do either of these things. They did get a nice new director's award from the DGA for Joel Edgerton for The Gift, but I still think that it's very, very iffy. And so that's something that people have to think about now when they make these deals at the festivals. And for instance, Nate Parker with Birth of a Nation, he turned down a more lucrative deal from Netflix to go with Fox Searchlight because he felt that Fox Searchlight would do a better job with the ad campaign and the awards campaign. So we'll see. There are other people who wanted Molly's Game, so maybe if the STX deal does fall through, that'll be the reason. Now, the other deal that's come together, this is a great one. This is also coming together at Cannes, and A24 has acquired the rights to this. A24 is very savvy. They really had a moment there where they were the hip distributor. They had all these cool projects like Spring Breakers, Sofia Coppola's movie, about those teenagers robbing houses in Beverly Hills. But they've kind of lost a little of their mojo as of late. So I think it's good that they're so aggressive. So what have they picked up? They've picked up the next film from It Follows writer-director David Robert Mitchell. Now, It Follows was a sensation. Definitely a sensation. It wasn't distributed by A24, and they're probably like, damn, how did we miss that? But It Follows came out of nowhere and just captivated genre fans and also a lot of filmmakers in the industry because it was so beautifully stylized. The only problem with that movie, which I think is what kept it from becoming like a cult classic forever, is the ending. I think the ending was very, very weak. And, even Quentin Tarantino talked about that It Follows was more of a great idea and a very good, artistic, had a very good broad artistic strokes, and a fabulous performance from Maika Monroe. I love Maika Monroe. I think she's so talented. I've liked her ever since I saw her at Any Price, the movie with Zac Efron and Dennis Quaid. She's also in the upcoming Independence Day Resurgence film, which I don't know if they're going to utilize her well enough, but she's really a good actress. But anyway, it had enough good things to get on people's radar. It was very well constructed up until a point. It's hard to end a movie. It's really difficult. Movies are hard. So he's going to try again. But because It Follows got so much attention, he's really got some nice toys to play with. Now, the movie's called Under the Silver Lake. It shoots in Los Angeles very soon, and it's a modern crime noir thriller. He's almost kind of like following in the footsteps of Rian Johnson, who's of course now doing Star Wars Episode 8, but I'm talking about films like Brick and stuff like that. And then also, Nicholas Winding Refn. And the fact that I can't remember Nicholas Winding Refn's name totally is not good for Nicholas Winding Refn. But, Rian Johnson worked out. Nicholas Winding Refn didn't. Let's see what happens to David Robert Mitchell. But he has 2 stars for this. Andrew Garfield will star, and then Dakota Johnson just joined the cast, which is interesting because she gets a lot of work. I actually think she's a pretty good actress. But it's funny to see her get so much work and Jamie Dornan get nothing. I don't know. I mean, maybe he was embarrassed by doing 50 Shades of Grey. He's got to do 2 more of them. But I don't know why he's not trying to capitalize on that film. I think that it really kind of was Dakota Johnson's film. She was very personable in it, very, very surprisingly comedic. So we'll see. But she's really getting a lot of mileage out of 50 Shades of Grey, more than one would have thought. But as for Andrew Garfield, I wanted to discuss him too because, he doesn't want to have what happened to him what happened to Tobey Maguire post Spider-Man, right? Which is a shame. Tobey Maguire is a very good actor. Again, I keep saying, if you haven't seen Pawn Sacrifice, watch Pawn Sacrifice. Fabulous film, stars Tobey Maguire, produced by Tobey Maguire. But I think that Andrew Garfield is in a little bit of a better position. He's also in the upcoming Scorsese movie with Adam Driver and Liam Neeson. So, and hopefully with that, and then this film, It Follows, Andrew Garfield will be able to recover. And he was a good Spider-Man, by the way. He was a very good Spider-Man. I think what helps is that he didn't have Spider-Man 3, that infamous movie where Tobey Maguire horrified all of his fans. Although many people still think they think Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man. Although I don't know if that's true after Civil War. Tom Holland's pretty spectacular. I think to all of these actors' credits, they did a nice job with Spider-Man, each and every one of them. All right, so let's go to the viewer question. This is from Queen D. Sheena. Queen D. Sheena is a regular BTT viewer and commenter, and I think she has a really interesting question for everyone today. She says, "Hiya, Grace. I have a question. Who's in charge of a movie's release schedule? There are great release dates like for Frozen, Batman v Superman, Captain America Civil War, and Deadpool. But it's interesting because I think many people wouldn't have thought Deadpool was a good release date, but now, of course, it is. But although we knew that Valentine's Day was a pretty big deal thanks to movies like 50 Shades of Grey and Kingsman. But anyway, Sheena continues saying, there are some bad ones like Penguins of Madagascar, smack dab in competition with Big Hero 6, The Good Dinosaur, which didn't get a Chinese release date. Sheena says because of not too much audience interest, but that's not always necessarily true. There's also a lot of politics involved. But then she says a November release date close to Star Wars The Force Awakens and a final Hunger Games movie close together is a bad idea. And then Ascendant in June 2017. Why do some dates happen that are obviously not wise for the movie? Please let me know. Thanks, Grace. Tons of cute emojis. Well, Sheena, there's someone who's the head of the head of distribution for a studio, and it's their job to position the movies. Now they have to, of course, factor in when the movie will be ready, and then also what kind of movie it is. Is it a holiday blockbuster? Is it a summer blockbuster? Is it maybe something is a little outside of the box, so you want to place it in April or February? I'm sorry, I don't know why I said April, August or February. April is kind of not a great month. The first weekend of April is pretty big, but the rest of April, as you saw this year, is eesh, because it's right before summer. But I think that, sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. Sometimes, don't forget, Batman v Superman was supposed to open first weekend of May, kick off the summer, but then they had to blink because, Marvel not only didn't move their mystery movie, but then announced it was Captain America Civil War. So I think, you stake out a date as best you can. As I've said, in movie math, it's like chess. So you pick a date as best you can, and sometimes they pick it way in advance, which you're seeing now with studios holding dates for projects to be determined, right? They're just I'm releasing something there. Stay away from it. So they pick a date far in advance, but then other studios kind of like, just like in chess, will move a movie closer to that and go, okay, I call your bluff. I'm going to move this specific movie close to your date, and then you can choose to stay there or not. Also, sometimes you have to make hard decisions because there's only so many weeks in the year, and you have to release your movie. That's why it's so important to make sure you have a good ad campaign. And then also sometimes they try to be polite to each other. They'll be like, oh well, I'm going to give this movie some room, not only to be polite, but also because I feel it's going to be huge in its second weekend and I don't want to compete with it. Sometimes I feel that studios shouldn't do that. I think they're gifting weekends to other studios. It's like, come on, get in there, like let that movie, fend for itself. I mean, no one's giving you any time to reap the box office rewards that you deserve. So we'll see. But I think that it's all about getting that date first, and just trying to make sure that you have enough space. Just position yourself. That's why they move the release dates a lot. And sometimes you just get stuck. Sometimes, too many other dates come in, you find your movie in a bad position. And also I'd like to point out that sometimes the release date doesn't look bad until the very end, right? Like the release date looked fine in advance. Like look at Kung Fu Panda. Kung Fu Panda, for instance, that's a good example. Kung Fu Panda 3 was supposed to come out for Christmas last year, and so that would have been wonderful for that film. However, then Star Wars all of a sudden was like, I'm coming out at Christmas, and so Kung Fu Panda was forced to move because it lost that rock paper scissors. Star Wars beats Kung Fu Panda, and so that was just Fox just being fresh out of luck. They were forced to move, and they had no choice. I mean, the movie ended up doing just fine, but I don't think it quite made the impact it would if it had come out for the holiday season. It's tough out there. It's really tough. Studios have to be super aggressive these days. And also, I think, luckily, something's developing where it's like, who cares when you release your movie? Either people want to see it or they don't. But anyway, I hope that clarifies things for you a little bit. Queen D. Sheena, thank you so much. Thank you not only for your question, but for always being such an avid participator here on the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Please write down below today's top 3 stories and that viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.